Hey guys, welcome to my second update video on my upcoming Kharadron Overlord Army. This time around, instead of having my weird little shaky cam that I had before, I decided to put a little more production values into it because, you guys deserve to have, something to look at as I talk about whatever ideas I have for my army. This particular army, I basically talk about the paint job that I did, the base idea that I had, and a little something extra to make this army my own. In hindsight, I probably should have cleaned up my room a little bit before this video, but it's done. Anyway, enjoy. So we first go to the base color of this particular miniature, which is Dark Star's Blue Steel, which, I'll be 100% honest, was going to be the main color, except it turned out a lot blacker than I had hoped. But I already grabbed this thing from away from where I purchased it when I ordered it live from Britannia, and I thought might as well use it as a base, and decided to use it as that. And I don't know if maybe because I'm still a miniature painter newbie, or maybe I had a bad batch, but this particular brand seemed very watery. I didn't really coat wear like a Vallejo brand paint, but it worked well enough as a base, and I started coating on. And once that was done, I switched over to the true color, Vallejo Gunship Blue, which I really like as a color for this particular army. It had a sort of, it's blue, which is my favorite color, but also had like an ethereal quality to it that really kind of fits the idea of these guys crossing through the plains of Shaiish. We now go to some of the non-metallic parts of the miniature, mainly the pants, that stone around that circle, and basically whatever's visible of the Duerden's under armor that protects his skin from the armor itself. And for that, I start with the base of black green, and from the black green, I went to the gunship green. Now, I'll admit, when I first tested this out, I wasn't sure if it would really work, but on the test models I did with Thundering Profiteers, it really popped. It really gave the energy of a group of Duerden who are in the depths of the underworld, searching for who knows what, but it's probably gold. Speaking of gold, we now head off towards the fancy bits of the particular miniature. Some parts of the faceplate, some part of the face thing on the stomach chest area, and some parts of that honor guard's stone thing. Just because it's dwarves. Duerden. Duerden's going to have something gold associated with them. They hunt for aether gold. Of course, they're going to have some fancy gold upon their armor, and honestly, it just looks really cool. I start with a base of bronze, just to make sure there's nice little dark areas to cover any parts I miss with my wonderful, wonderful Vallejo Old Gold. I decided to go for Old Gold instead of regular gold because regular gold was just a bit too shiny. Old Gold had a nice weathered look that I really appreciate, like these are Duerden that are out getting the work done in the land of death. And then we move on to anything that means business on the Duerden. Basically, the soles of the feet for the kicking. Weapons for the weaponing. I could have said shooting or melee, but weaponing sounds, I was going to say cooler, but that doesn't make any sense either. Anything that's pointed at enemy. And also the beard for bearding. What does that bearding mean? You would know if you were a dwarf. And you also may notice that there is a huge, when it comes to a lot of gunmetal theme. I wish I had a reason, like the coloring really struck me, and that's why I chose this specific colors, of the gunmetal variety. But let's be honest, gunmetal sounds cool, and I like the idea of having our army talking to someone and saying like, yeah, I colored my army in gunmetal. God, that sounded corny, didn't it? Let's go to the next part. And finally, we got the belts around the waist of the Kharadron Overlord, which I decided to just go with a leather belt with a leather pouch. The leather belt itself is Mordfang Brown, which is a nice dark deep brown from Citadel, and the leather brown is, leather brown from Army Painter. And they both look really good as leather. And I do like how the brownish color contrasts with the blue and the green. With the painting done, I head then to the washes. For those who aren't into miniature painting, washes are basically the stuff you add after most of the major painting is done to give more definition to the model, give it a more of a, 3D or realistic effect. In the case of this particular miniature, for all the green stuff, I use non-oil from Citadel to give it a darker look. For anything gold, I use the Seraphim also from Citadel to make that gold really pop. And I tried a trick from Dana Howell's YouTube channel. She's a miniature painter, where she adds together Reichland Flesh Shade and Agros Earth Shade. I didn't have the Agros version, but I had strong tone from Army Painter, which is pretty close. I think Strong Tone is a bit stronger, or darker, I mean. But I mixed them together, and apparently it works really well with bone and leather to make them look more like bone and leather. And I tried it on the leather, and it seems to work really well, at least to me. Now, you can't have a proper miniature without a proper base, and for that, I'm using a putty I created from leftover bits I cut out when I was cutting out the models, and some rubber cement. The two mixed together makes a nice putty that can lay on top of the model. I could have bought some green stuff or something, but honestly, it was much cheaper and easier just to make my own putty. I placed it there to give it some texture, and what I tried to do initially was try to form it into like a large mountain or large volcano, but that idea sort of shifted into making it much flatter and much shorter for two reasons. Number one, I wanted to make sure the miniature was more of it was seen because, you know, I put all this job painting and I want people to see it. And number two, that little I'm not a sculptor or sculptor, whichever one you want to pick. And basically, that volcano or mountain I tried to make turned more into a sphincter. And that might be good for a future Nurgle army, not so much for a Duerden / Kharadron Overlord army. So I decided to just go with flat, hilly sort of terrain. From here, I sadly don't have much video of this part, but I added some Armageddon dust from Citadel, some of their texture paint, to give that bumpy base some more texture, giving it a more like, you know, dirt or dusty appearance. And from there, I primed it black to get it ready for the next phase of painting. The next phase being me coloring it Deep Ocean by Reaper. I liked this color mainly because I wanted to A, keep with the blue theme, and B, the Deep Ocean is a really nice, not super dark, but also, I keep saying the word ethereal, but like, I want to feel like they're traveling through a place that's not really normal. And this Deep Ocean really does it. And after 2 deep coats, it gave it a nice sheen, but it wasn't, like I said, there was no depth to it because this needs a good wash. And I thought originally of using Nun Oil or something darker, but then, because I also got a random pack of Vallejo washes, I recently grabbed a blue wash from them that worked really well. After coating and letting it dry, it turned into a nice, like, lived-in dark world with the dark blue recesses that promise, like, oh, there's horrible things here. But it didn't feel like enough. And that's when I decided to go with a bit of dry brushing of gold to add to the story of this place. That in this place, wherever they are, which I'm going to name later, but it's going to be hopefully something cool. This is a place where the cold depths of the air, of this cold, maybe it's because it's magical death cold or something like that, that it actually sort of freezes up, or no, freezes up that the ether gold at the top like actually turns to a liquid and falls down like rain. Happens sporadically, and it lands on the ground, and I'm not sure yet if the gold on the ground eventually evaporates back up or it just stays in there. But whenever this happens, the Kharadron Overlords go walk through it and basically just grab as much of that gold as they can. So that's the idea that's currently in my head. But even with all of this, it didn't feel like enough. It felt like I was missing one more thing to make it really deathy or death-themed. And I was looking around, I was thought maybe let's put a skull somewhere, or maybe like some, like, I don't know, some ghost effects of some sort. And then as I was looking around for random undead stuff on the internet, I found a website called Micro World Games, which basically sells miniatures for 6mm armies, like the really tiny armies you can grab. And they have these, like, what were essentially undead armies, but specifically the unit I was looking at least at first, was the Bone Golems. And I thought to myself, why not have the Kharadron Overlords have little helpers? I know that there's some Russian, I think it's Russian, legend about these helper spirits that help you around the house. What if they are in a place of the world where basically, a place of the undead lands that hadn't been completely destroyed by Nagash, where there were these ethereal or ghostly spirit helpers? Were they once alive? Are they part of the landscape? I don't know yet, but I like the idea of these little creatures that help out the Kharadron Overlords. Maybe some Kharadrons help them out, like trust them, some don't. I don't know yet, but I just like that story idea. So I started out with getting these things. I primed them black, gave a nice 1 or 2 coats of ivory, and then to give it that really ethereal effect, I gave them some nice night hunt gloom, basically to make them seem, are they ghosts, are they skeletons, who knows. with all these powers combined, I thought, what can I do with all these effects? And as this final image shows, I have some ideas that I'll talk about more of in the third video in the series. Hey guys, thanks for watching so far on what I've done with this Kharadron Overlords Army. If you are interested in anything stuff I mentioned, either Dana Howell's YouTube channel or the Microworlds Games website, links to both is in the show notes down below. And I want to personally thank all of you for the support you've given me and allowing me to finally get an army of my own and put it out there for the world to see. And hopefully play in once the pandemic stops being a pandemic. Anyway, thanks for listening, watching, and see you next time.